Tom Davis. I'm the state senator from District 46. And this represents the 8th year that I've been working for a full medical cannabis law in South Carolina. Started in 2014 when a constituent of mine came up to me and talked about her granddaughter who suffered 100 seizures an hour, perhaps more, who was heavily narcoticized on pharmaceuticals that did not abate the seizures. But she explained to me how cannabis oil can mitigate the seizures. So I dug into the issue and I found out that she was correct. And so in 2014, to this General Assembly's credit, we passed a bill allowing a doctor to authorize cannabis oil use by patients with epilepsy. And countless people have benefited from that. But in the course of researching that particular bill about epilepsy, I learned about the other therapeutic benefits of medical cannabis that are quite frankly undeniable, completely undeniable. And so what I want to do right now is kind of let you know where things stand. Tremendous thanks to Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey. Shane Massey has said that this issue is important enough. He's heard the arguments, he's received the phone calls, he's read the emails, that he decided this was going to be one of the very first things we take up in the Senate on special order debate, which means that once it's taken up, we can't take up anything else in that General Assembly, nothing else in that Senate, until we have an up or down vote on this bill in the South Carolina Senate. That debate will start next week, and at the end of that debate, we will have the votes, we will pass it, and we're going to send it to the House. As I said, I've been working on this for 8 years. I've taken 8 years worth of research, information, stories, data, study of the law, and I've condensed it down into a floor notebook, which I am going to lay out in my argument next week in the state Senate. I'm going to take on every single argument that has been raised in opposition to this bill, and I'm going to show how that argument cannot stand in the weight of facts and evidence, okay? 36 states have authorized doctors to let patients take cannabis for medicinal condition. 36 states. Just last week, the Mississippi Senate voted 47 to 5 for a much broader medical cannabis bill than we're debating up there in the South Carolina Senate next week. More states are to follow. There is authority for us to act. I've heard so many arguments about how we can't act as a state. Oh, we're compassionate, we wish we could, but we have to wait for the federal government to say it's okay. Well, guess what? They have said it's okay. Okay, you know why? Many reasons, but I'll focus on 2. First of all, the Controlled Substances Act, which characterizes or schedules cannabis as a Schedule I drug, that is most often cited for the argument that it preempts and we can't do anything about it. The CSA on its face says it is not a preemption. It is not meant to preempt the entire field. And it explicitly invites the states to augment and supplement and to do what they think is in the best interest of their citizens, which is why you see 36 states take advantage of that argument, of that authority. That argument that we can't act is a lie. Every year, Congress acknowledges that. Every year in the budget, Congress says to the Department of Justice, of this money we're appropriating to you, of these millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars we're giving to you, you can't use a penny of that money to challenge any state that has legalized cannabis for medicinal purposes. That is the law of the land. That's in every budget Congress has passed for the last 8 years. And so when people stand up here and say, I would like to help South Carolinians, but I can't because the federal government won't let us, that's a lie. And I'm going to demonstrate that and show that on the floor. The next thing you often hear, and I remember law enforcement a few years ago when I first started this, they had little stickers made that said marijuana is not medicine, and they had people parading around in that lobby saying that. They got rid of those stickers. You know why? Because the overwhelming weight of medical authority now is it can be therapeutic. It is conclusively shown. The National Academy of Sciences, the preeminent medicine scientific organization in the United States, in 2017 looked at 10,000 different scientific abstracts and said there is conclusive evidence, the highest degree of evidence, that marijuana can be beneficial to help patients where pharmaceuticals fail. That's why you don't see those hideous and odious marijuana is not medicine stickers anymore, and they should be ashamed for ever putting them on in the first place. Next is, we hear about the parade of horribles. Oh, there's going to be teen use increase. There's going to be all sorts of things. Workplace, people are not going to show up for work. We're going to see all sorts of societal ills. Well, guess what? We've had decades of states with experience with medical cannabis laws. We have hundreds of studies that show that those claims are lies. I'm going to go through those empirical studies. I'm going to point to what the data is, and I'm going to shoot down every single argument that they're going to advance, and they can't make one in opposition because there isn't an argument in opposition. Next, I'm going to go through the nuts and bolts of S-150. This bill is the culmination of 7 years' work, 7 years of committee work, 7 years of me sitting down with the South Carolina Medical Association, the SLED chief, law enforcement, members of the faith community, and every time they have suggested something we should put in there to make it tighter, to make sure it's for medicine and not for anything, I've done it. But it's like playing whack-a-mole with those guys. They don't care. They don't care. But I'm going to go through just so the body can see that I've been listening, I've been accommodating. I welcome them to this day to come and talk to me about how to make this bill better. I like spirited opposition. I like somebody contesting my bill, our bill, that Steve Goldfinch and I and 17 others in the Senate have put their names on as sponsors. Because that opposition makes it a better bill. Okay, when you're challenged on your assumptions, when you're challenged on your language, when you're challenged about unintended consequences, you make your bill better by addressing that. Lastly, and this is something I got to remind myself of, we can't lose sight of why we're doing this. We're doing this to help people who are suffering, people who are breaking the law now and going out and buying marijuana on the streets, not knowing what's in it, not knowing if it's adulterated, not knowing if it's safe, because they have no other choice, because they either need it or their children need it to survive. And I was reminded of that just last night. I get through Instagram or emails or text or whatever it is, I get stories, they haunt me. I got this last night at 10:33 p.m. from a woman in Charleston. It says this: Senator Davis, I saw that you were pushing for medical cannabis use in South Carolina. I need to know if there is anything that the public can do to support your efforts. I am 45, have had around 20 operations in the last 12 years, and I'm in constant pain. I have an autoimmune disease, pelvic floor dysfunction, and constant muscle spasms. I refuse to take opioids and other addictive medications, although when it gets really bad, I have to take a muscle relaxant to calm it. My husband and I read about the different strains of cannabis and how they can help with chronic conditions. We decided to travel to a state that has legalized cannabis so I could try it. I do not like the feeling of being high, or not myself, so I tried the lower strain and one or two others. Eventually, I found one that worked for me. I had a week of almost completely pain-free days. It was magical and encouraging. Of course, when I came home, I was back to my daily pain routines. We have considered moving out of state, but we both have parents in Charleston that are up in age. We also have our jobs, home, and children here. I apologize for this long message, but I'm encouraged by what you're doing, and I want to try to help. She doesn't have to apologize to me for this long message. We need to apologize to her for having to go to some other state to get 1 week's worth of relief from pain. That is ridiculous. It is up to us as lawmakers to figure out in a safe and legal way, in consultation with a doctor, that people like this can get relief. We're going to make this case. I thank Shane Massey for setting a special order. I thank House Speaker Lucas, who has said once this bill passes the Senate, he'll allow the bill to move through the House process. I fully expect, and given those commitments, that we are going to be standing here in 3 or 4 months celebrating a bill signing where Governor McMaster finally makes us not one of the 14 states that refuses to acknowledge medicine, but one of the 37 states that has recognized it. Thank you all very much.